Hello, welcome back to Let's Play Bit.Trip.Runner after a several month hiatus. Now, before we move on to the remainder of the game, there are a couple of stages in which I didn't get a perfect score. So, let's start with Unstoppable Mr. Video. Oh, and if you return to any of the previous stages after you picked up a later power-up, you can use them in the stages. But they won't do you any good, since they're designed to tackle a specific obstacle, and we won't be seeing any of those this early on. Now this crystal right here down below, and the one coming up right here, are the two things I missed on my first time. I took the upper path last time, so I didn't get any points for breaking them. Initially I thought that the fact I didn't get a perfect, even though I picked up all the gold, was simply a glitch of some sort, but I've wisened up since then. And now I know that if you want a perfect, you need to get everything in the stage, everything you can get, at the very least. Now why am I going after a perfect score? Well, it just so happens that there's... Oh, just a second. Yep, you can create your own rhythm, but multitasking is surprisingly difficult that way. It's difficult enough to try and pick up the pieces of gold. Speaking of which, this tunnel gave me a lot of trouble on this revisit to the stage. On my first time through, I got past it the first time around, and I don't know how I managed that, because right now it gave me a ton of trouble. I had to redo the level several times. Now let's see here. Yep, that's a perfect score right there. So now we're going to do that to a bunch of other stages too, and I'm just going to keep rambling over stuff because we've already seen the stages. There's no need to keep quiet here. This is just a little intermission. And I have no idea what I missed here, but I suspect it has to do with one of these target platforms, seeing how they're the ones that elude you the most. We'll see, though. So, why am I going after a perfect score? Well, it just so happens that there is an achievement associated with... Oh, wow, that was a great way to start things. I don't know why I kept that in. I was saying there is an achievement associated with getting every... Wow, I'm just rocking the scene today, man. Oh, boy. Let's hope third time's the charm. Let's see if I can finish the sentence this time. The reason I'm doing a perfect on these stages is the fact that there is an achievement associated with getting a perfect in each level, and since I took it upon myself to do a 100% LP of the game, well, I only think it's fitting that I revisit the stages that I screwed up in on my first time through. This wouldn't truly be a 100% LP otherwise, would it? So, while we're going through these stages one more time, I wanted to take the opportunity to discuss whether Bit.Trip.Runner is a rhythm game, whether it's actually a rhythm game. And it's been brought up in a thread a couple of times. I've discussed it with a couple of friends, and it's one of the biggest mysteries of our time, so I think it really warrants a proper analysis. So I contest that Bit.Trip.Runner isn't a rhythm game per se. It's a... Yeah, I always make it a policy to include a shave and a haircut beat somewhere in there. It's only fitting, right? So, I think Bit.Trip.Runner is not a rhythm game. It's not a proper, pure rhythm game. See, if you take any proper music game, say Guitar Hero, Rock Band, or one of those dancing games, Dance Dance Revolution games, any variant of such a game, you always have a song, naturally, and a song comprises of a rhythm, a melody, and a harmony. Now, we can scratch the last two of those off the list and just concentrate on the rhythm part, since that's the biggest dispute right here. So, the biggest difference between the... Okay, well, I suppose that only gives me more time to talk about this. The biggest difference between the aforementioned examples and Bit.Trip.Runner is the fact that any proper rhythm game, quote-unquote, requires you to hit a key when a note plays, exactly at the very moment a note plays, and that's how music is properly played. You wouldn't hit a piano key slightly before you're supposed to play it. It would be offbeat. Now, some musicians use that to their advantage, but I digress. If you take a simple beat, in Bit.Trip.Runner's case, it's a 4/4 beat, so it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Now, consider that 4/4 beat, those 4 notes. Now, any pickup in this game, or any obstacle that you avoid, will create the rhythm and the accompanying melody. Now, obviously, the rhythm created is not a constant 4/4 beat, because that would make for a very boring rhythm, and indeed for very, very boring gameplay. So you can splice them up into smaller units. One whole note would take all those 4 beats, right? One half note would take 2, and you could split that to 8ths, to 16ths, to 32ths, to 64ths, to duplets, to triplets, just about anything in between. It's all basic maths, really. Now, as I was saying, in any rhythm game, or in music in general, you play the notes when you're supposed to play them. In Bit.Trip.Runner's case, however, you have to anticipate the note, so to speak. So, if you took the notes right here, and in Guitar Hero you'd play them when they come up. In Bit.Trip.Runner's case, you'd have to play them slightly before. And that was something that really threw me off the first time playing this game, because I would constantly tap my foot to the beat. And consequently, I also was expecting to press the keys, the jump action, the kick button, what have you, when the note plays, because that's how it works in my head. And at its most basic level, that's also how rhythm works. You can always make convoluted stuff and make real tricky syncopated stuff, but that's really not the point here. So, in Bit.Trip.Runner, you press the key slightly before a note plays. Imagine if that were the case in Guitar Hero. When the note comes from the top of the screen to the little note when you play the note, you were supposed to anticipate it. Or better yet, imagine playing with a band. Imagine there being a short latency period between you hitting a note and it making a sound. It would be extremely difficult to keep up with the others, and it would drive you insane. So from that point of view alone, I would say Bit.Trip.Runner doesn't qualify as a pure rhythm game. I'd say it's more like an endless runner platformer with some rhythmic elements attached to it. But feel free to disagree with me, feel free to send me hate mail and call me out on being a terrible person for thinking these blasphemous thoughts out loud. Now, of course, you could also argue that Bit.Trip.Runner is the ultimate rhythm game, where you really have to master the beat, and you need to press the keys 1/16th of a note prior to the note being played. But I mean, come on, that's clearly not the case. That's not how they intended the game to be. And nobody who plays this game actually thinks it like that. I doubt there are even many people on the planet who could rewire their brain to work in such a manner. But ultimately, it's really a moot point whether it's a pure rhythm game or not. It's not supposed to work like that. It's supposed to make you anticipate the note, you have visual stimuli, you see what's coming up, and you react to that. I sincerely doubt it would even work any other way. That's the last one you'll hear in this Let's Play, I promise. Okay, that's the last perfect, and I'm done with this topic. I've already gone overboard analyzing this. So, changing to a lighter topic, something I never showed is that there's a difficulty setting here in the options, and there's actually an easy mode. And I never beat the game on that because it's really boring, and therefore I can only show you the first levels, but that will suffice. That's enough to show you the differences between normal and easy. But before that, so the extra notes you hear in the background are created by pressing a key that's assigned to a power-up that you don't yet have, and it creates random notes. That way you can create your own little melody, and I wish I'd remembered it at the beginning of this Let's Play, because it would have been a nice little gimmick to use. I think it's a nice touch, in any case. Well, you probably noticed there's something amiss here on easy mode. And it's also evident on the top right corner, there are no gold pieces whatsoever in these stages. So all you have to do is avoid obstacles, and that's that. So there's really no point in playing this mode, seeing how normal is just the same. It just gives you the option to pick the gold up. So I don't know, I guess it doesn't hurt to have this mode here, I just fail to see the point. There could also be less obstacles in the stages, but seeing how I never played past these two stages, I'm not an expert on the topic. So, I don't know, try it out yourself. Or don't. Well, so much for easy mode. The last thing I want to talk about is Super Meat Boy and the small cultural exchange between the two games. I don't know how the game devs know each other, if at all. But you may remember Super Meat Boy making a small cameo appearance in one of the Zone 3 levels in Bit.Trip.Runner, and conversely, Commander Video is a playable character in Super Meat Boy. Oh, there he is! Look at him go! Yeah, that's false advertising. He doesn't do that in his own game, he doesn't really do that in this one either. So that's kinda crappy. Well, in any case, this game was my first encounter with the beloved Commander Video, and I really didn't know what to expect from his own game. At first I thought it would be something like this, and it was something of a shock to me, to be honest. As for Commander Video's role and abilities in this game, he can float for a short period of time in the air, but aside from that, he's very slow and very clumsy. I don't like using him at all. So let's take him out for a spin then, shall we? Just gotta play a couple of levels with him, because I really haven't utilized him all that much. I don't think he's a very good character. He can be situationally useful, his floatability can get you across some obstacles, but for the most part, he's just slow and boring and clumsy, and you should have no reason to use him whatsoever. There are better characters in the game. It's kind of a shame, really, because I imagine with a little bit of tweaking, he could have been a really interesting character. But as it is, it's just a chore to play as him. If you really want a challenge, you can try and beat the entire game using nobody but Commander Video. Now, speaking of challenge, this here is Billy Boy. Anyone who's ever played this game up to this point recognizes this color scheme, and probably hates the level too. It's not really all that difficult, but with Commander Video, yeah, it's not really all that fun. If you can get up to the upper corridors, his float skill can be really useful in crossing over those bouncing things, but I'm doing a terrible job at it. Okay, one more try and then I'm done with this. Alright, this should be good. Yeah, right. Okay, that's it. I'm done. You hear me? Done! Well, that's a good place to call it quits. I'll see you next time in Let's Play Bit.Trip.Runner when we finally beat the game. See you then.